Welcome to Tea with the Experts and Dr. Leah Merle, your premier destination for mental health insights, empowerment, and inspiration. Led by the passionate therapist and counsellor educator, Dr. Leah Merle, this interview-style podcast delves deep into diverse themes with top-notch experts in the field. Beginning with the What Is series, from anxiety, trauma to resilience and mindfulness. We sip our way through captivating conversations, psychological insights, shedding light on the complexities of mental wellness and what it means to be a human being. Each episode serves up a refreshing blend of knowledge, empathy, and empowerment, aiming to destigmatize mental health issues and raise awareness in an engaging and approaching manner. But before we dive into our discussions, let's take a moment to appreciate the tradition of tea time. Originating in England during the 19th century, tea time became a cherished ritual for British society. And speaking of British traditions, our very own Dr. Leah Merle is a British expat who now resides in the USA. She brings with her not only her expertise in mental health, but also a deep appreciation for the therapeutic power of tea time. So grab your favourite cuppa and get ready to sleep yourself into transformative conversations that will leave you feeling uplifted and enlightened. Subscribe now and join the movement to break down barriers and foster a more compassionate world.
Hello and welcome to Tea with the Experts and Dr. Leah Merle. We're focusing on the What Is series, and today we ask the question, what is it like to be an athlete in the UK? We have the pleasure of interviewing Ross Batty, a former Rugby Union professional who dedicated the majority of his career to Bath Rugby. Ross brings a wealth of experience and insight to the mental aspect of sports performance, having navigated the highs and lows of elite level competition. Throughout his career, Ross has not only excelled on the field, but also delved into the intricate workings of the athlete's mind. So this makes him a fascinating guest to explore the psychology behind athletic achievement. Join us as we delve into his journey specifically, from the rugby pitch to the inner workings of the athlete's psyche. Ross Batty, welcome to Tea with the Experts. Good morning and hello.
Good morning and afternoon over here in England.
That's right. It's afternoon for you. It's morning for me, but it's very early in the morning for me. And it's late for you. So it's good to see you. Thanks so much for being here. So really, my first question is, I wanted to ask where it all began. So how did you get your start in rugby?
I think as a young guy, obviously football, or soccer, as you call it over there in the States, was not physical enough for me. I used to get sent off quite a bit, and it was a bit too rough for the game. And my parents, my dad thought that, rugby might be a natural fit. And then started going to a few training sessions at a local club and at my school. And turned out I loved it. And yeah, that's where the story started.
Yeah, I love that. Was it the aggression? Was it the aggression piece and like the physical aspect of rugby that was different than football?
When I was young, I'm not sure if it was any of those things, just that probably I was quite good at it. I used to loved playing, loved running around with the ball. But there is, subconsciously, if you look at it, probably is all those things. Been able to be physical from being, when I was little, I was quite a chunky thing. So it's no, it was probably that, and yeah, the fact you could excel and push and get better at something. I think that really wanted to carry on.
Yeah. What was the dedication like for you? Like, what was the training like when you started? You know, you started at school, you did club as well, and then you went on to pro. But what was the training like? Talk about like that dedication as a young kid.
So not when obviously very young when I first started out, but I was getting through the age group stuff where you start going into academies of professional clubs and playing more like international age group stuff, which is like England under 16s, north of England. That's when that's under 16s. That's when it starts all getting a little bit more serious. And yeah, it becomes, there is a potential of a career in there as well. And that's where it is. That's where it starts to turn a little bit. And I was lucky at my school. My coach at the time was an ex-professional rugby player. So he helped an awful lot. Do you know what I mean? Just with guidance and just what to do in the training that I was doing and helping. Do you know what I mean? Helping a young lad who was aspiring to be a professional rugby player at that time. And I remember when it started getting to that serious level, that's all I wanted to do. I wasn't bothered about anything else. There was no school. There was no any other sport. I was set that that's what I wanted to do, and that's what I was going to become.
Yeah, you were dedicated to rugby. What about the difference? Talk to us about the difference between that divide that you had. I remember you had a divide between going to rugby and also cricket. You had to choose because you were really getting to that point, that level of excellence.
Yeah, that was probably about 15-year-old, I think it would have been around about that time, give or take, somewhere around there. But that essentially cricket is summer, rugby is winter, and there is a bit of overlap between the seasons. So essentially, as it worked through the year, I'd play rugby through Christmas, spring, and when it started to come to an end, the cricket season was starting. But at that time, I was playing county cricket, and yeah, that I don't know if it was, but it was potentially going to be a viable option for a career as well if I'd stuck in. Potentially, I'm not saying it would have been, but it may have been. And the back end of the cricket season, the rugby season, would impact on the pre-season for the cricket. So then I'd drop a rugby ball, pick up a cricket ball, bat and ball, play cricket all summer, and then the end of the cricket season would start to impact on the pre-season for the rugby. Obviously, getting into winter again after that, the autumn time. So it come a point where I think as a young lad, obviously you do everything. Like, I was a huge advocate of do every sport, try everything when you're younger. And obviously I did play football, cricket, rugby, squash, you name it, I did it. But at that time with the cricket and rugby, my body, I think, started to not break down as such, because it wasn't professional stress, but I had to make a decision really, and I couldn't give either one the time it deserved. So every time, even though natural ability at that level, the people you're playing against are that bit better. So I started to kind of lack in the cricket personally, is what I feel. So I had to make a decision, and I couldn't do them both anymore, because I couldn't give everything which it needed to do it. So yeah, I used to get too angry in cricket when I got out. So I think being able to run around and hit people in rugby was the option for me, and that's the one I chose.
Yeah, no, I love that. I work with parents a lot who are really trying to give their children the opportunity of all of the different sports so that they can choose. And that's kind of what happened to you, is you did all of the sports to kind of choose what you enjoyed most and what you excelled at. And then you had to make that decision when it gets to that level of seriousness and dedication. And when you kind of move forward, you got to make a choice. So
I think it's so important though to make you, as you're younger, and this is like from a rugby, with a rugby head on here, like finer motor skills from all of them different sports really help, help kids develop, like all the way. So even the fine motor skills of catching, I did a lot of swimming when I was really young, like the strength and core strength that I had from that transferred into rugby, and cricket, hand-eye coordination, both ways, squash, the same, even though it was a racket and a bat, you still have to have that hand-eye coordination, which only helps you be a more well-rounded, well, in my case, sports person. Do you know what I mean? That's what really, and that's what I would say to any parents. And it's got to be when they enjoy it as well. Like, see people force things upon kids, but you just got to get out there and let them do their thing and enjoy it. If they're not enjoying it, they ain't going to go nowhere. Do you know what I mean?
It's right. It is. And it's about the child, whether they're enjoying it, not necessarily about the parent kind of vicariously living through the child. But using
Yeah.
my kiddo, Mackenzie, as an example, you know, we put her into lots of different sports, everything, tried her in everything. And it was rugby that she enjoyed. That was the sport. That's the sport that she plays now that she's really excelling at, just kind of like you with that natural ability. But you couldn't do it. You couldn't take her continuously if she didn't love it. Like, she loves the game. She loves the camaraderie with the team. Like, she loves it.
That's where rugby is different. You know, it is, there's not one size works, it's one size fits all. One game, you need big, short, quick, slow, strong, everything. There is literally a place for everyone on the rugby field, which makes it unique in that sense. Do you know what I mean? It does make it a very unique game and very inclusive. Yeah, there is the physical aspect, and it's tough. Like, rugby is tough, in my opinion, because it is tough and it is a physical game. If kids aren't enjoying it, they don't want to be there. Things hurt more when you don't enjoy it. It's just it doesn't work. You have to be present. You have to be enjoying it to want to put yourself in a position where someone's going to try and run over you and you're going to try and whack them. Like, it's
Exactly.
without buttering it up or putting it a different way. It's pretty straightforward.
Absolutely. I saw my first injury actually with one of the girls this past weekend on Saturday, and we thought her ankle was broken, like, because you heard the snap, and thank goodness it was ligament damage. I can't believe I'm saying that, but you know, it wasn't actually broken, but she's out the season, and it was a really intense tackle. And she still coming to training, watching the girls train. They're all supportive of each other.
That's testament to, like, buy-in from another, like, because obviously with a group, never met them. Obviously, I know Mackenzie, but never met the group or where she's training the coaches. But that's a bond that's not made on a rugby field. That is off the pitch. That is friends caring about it, and that is what professional sports try to get, is like that sort of buy-in, so everyone feels like a team. To go and sit there and watch, boring watching training. Do you know what I mean? But because she cares about people in the team, she's massively invested. That makes it easy, and that's awesome to hear. That not about the injury, obviously, but about the environment, and they're enjoying it.
The tough cookies, that's for sure. They're oh, I got a bruise today.
It's celebrating the calluses, isn't it? Celebrating. It's like, I remember when I was little, you start to come through school and you get cauliflower ears, or they start coming in, and obviously I've had all mine drained down, but it was like a little weirdly like a trophy, you know, like you were there and doing it. It's weird, but it's now my ears not quite as bad as they could have been, but they're still there for sure.
What do? They go in there and like inject your ear and pull out the blood.
Yeah, well, essentially. So what it is, without knowing all the technical terms, so obviously ears cartilage on top of the cartilage, and what happens is the skin internally tears away from the cartilage and then creates essentially a pocket, and then obviously because it's injured, it fills up with blood. But then once it's open in your cauliflower ear, then every time you whack it, it pulls a bit more, gets bigger, more blood. But once the blood gets in, it can't naturally get out. So that's where you have to get a syringe put in, and then get all the blood sucked out, which is, it sounds quite gruesome actually, but
it really does. It sounds
part and parcel of it. Some people don't choose to have them drained. Like, I chose to have mine syringed and drained, because maybe a bit vain. So I didn't want dog chews for ears, but I had mine drained, and then like literally where they were, I'd push blue tack into my ear to hold like a shape, and then a bit of bandage on the top, just to try and keep a bit of form in your ear, because obviously the skin's just blown away. So
that is intense, Ross Batty. That's intense right there with the ears. Woo,
boy. Part of it.
Yeah. Well, there's lots of parts of it, right? It's a complicated sport. It's not easy to watch and understand. And it has this big fanatic following, obviously, in England, and now it's coming to the States. It's rugby is becoming huge, and I know you and I have talked kind of offline about that as well, and what that looks like. But what are your thoughts about that? Like, rugby is a classic sport in the UK, and it's been going on for gosh, centuries now at this point, but it's moving into the States. It's getting bigger. Like, tell me about that. What do you think about that?
Great. It's only great for the game, to be fair. I think from the USA, like, even if you look at it, these are on little bits because it hasn't fully, it's now getting better over the past 5 years, I'd say. The league's getting better. Some of the stars of the international game are playing in the American League. And even if you think of like one bit of it, so like fallout from NFL, there's a ridiculous statistic, like it's like 1-2%, I think, that make it in the NFL because it's so, obviously the chances of making it so slim. So you've got, even if you had the top 20% of people who are going to play NFL fell out of NFL and then made their way into rugby and were coached, and they're still unbelievable athletes. Like, so to be able to get that to go forward in America, I think there'll be in the future an unbelievable team. Like, and it just has the right, grassroots, the right growth, the right infrastructure put in, the right coaching. And no, there's definitely a huge future for the game in America, especially like the physicality side of it. So you look at NFL fans, that's the nearest comparison. It's not the same, but it's still physical, like ice hockey, I suppose, in a sense as well, with the physicality in that and the collisions, like how much that's celebrated in the US, like that physical confrontation. That's what rugby is without pads. So once the bias of like NFL, you know what I mean, is taken away and it becomes more mainstream rugby, I think it'll massively take off.
Doesn't your old coach or somebody work over here in the States?
I know quite a few people have gone over and done coaching and universities and little bits and bobs like that, and we've had a few American internationals that have come over and played at Bath when I was there. Just obviously experiencing a different league, and I think they both came in when we had injuries, so they came as injury cover, like short-term loans. And they loved it, and it's great to see people just coming over and enjoying the sport, I suppose.
Well, I know you loved it. You had to love it for as long as you did it, and to go from like Darlington, right? You went from Mowden, and then you moved into you went to Falcons after that, right? Newcastle. What was your trajectory of clubs?
So the structure, how it works. So Newcastle Falcons are like a Premiership club. So they're like the biggest club in the north and northeast, and then northwest. You have because obviously, so at school I played for my school team, Barnard Castle, and Mowden Park, my local minis rugby club, which they're not professional like at the top league, but they are like 3 or 4 leagues below, just a good standard of men's rugby. I played age group kid stuff all the way through, and then played in the first team. So like played for the unprofessional stuff until you're about 16, 17. And then you're not really allowed to play men's rugby unless you get it signed off. And obviously my dad being dad, I know you know him quite well. He allowed me to play men's rugby when I was 17. So at that time, I would play between 16 and 18 when I was still at college and school over here. I played for my school, the England like schoolboys, under 18s and 16s. I played not so much for Mowden Park because when you get to 16s, it becomes like Colts. But rugby at my school was really competitive. So that was the better standard to play than the local club rugby, if you like. So then when I was playing college rugby, I then was at Newcastle Falcons because I started going to the academy structure and the Premiership team. Started going with them since I was about probably 14 or 15, I think, maybe 30. Like they spotted the talent through their coaches, and just then you get invited to go up with a professional team, obviously in your own age, not training with the first team, training with their academy structure, and then they have a good look at you do like whether it's gym training, they look at you as a person, your rugby skills, like they just evaluate you and what they think you're made of, really, I suppose, and whether you've have a closer look at. They have time with you to train you and see if you've got it or you haven't, essentially.
Which you had, obviously, which is
Well, yeah, a little bit of something. I don't know what. A
a
little bit of something.
sprinkle, a
Yeah.
sprinkle.
No,
What
and
a,
they were great. They were great
yeah,
coaches, and still so grateful to them. And
yeah.
Peter Walton and John Fletcher, they were
Mm.
amazing guys. Just the coaches are obviously, as young men, as they used to say, you know, you've got so much going on in your development, rugby, life. They got people. So it wasn't like a school, you know, like where it's like rules. They were very, you know, they were so good they're so good at the job. They're still coaching now, and they are just, yeah, brilliant people.
Well, that makes the difference, isn't it? And having that type of support has been important to you. So like I just think about like mum and dad, and I don't want to say sacrifice because they did it willingly, but the support, right, that they gave you, taking you everywhere, the money that it costs, like, and then you had coaches that were amazing. I think about like the teachers that you still speak to now that were really supportive, and the coaches. So there's definitely a level of
It's huge. It's huge. And that, if you don't have that support, the job of me fulfilling my dream of what I wanted to do is that much more difficult. Like taking sacrifice. It is sacrifice, because as much as they don't want to do it, it absolutely is. Because if my dad hadn't took me to the trials, he hadn't took me every weekend to even club games, you don't develop, you don't get better. You're not fully immersed in it to enjoy it. And that's what that buy-in, I mentioned that word again, that's what takes you to go even further. Do you know what I mean? And your mum, dads, whoever it may be, uncles, brothers, sisters who take you, who facilitate that, play a huge role in catapulting you or allowing you to try and get to the next level.
That's really well said. I know I've seen a few rugby games in my time, that's for sure. So
Yeah,
it's
definitely. A few people got dragged along as well, didn't they? So
what about the enjoyable side of it? Obviously, you know, you did it for a long time, for years and years and years, but what was your favorite thing about being a rugby player? And then on the other side of that is, what was the not so favorite thing? Like what was most difficult about it? And I know I'm kind of trying to boil that down into one thing, but
what did I enjoy most?
yeah, what was your favorite thing?
Winning.
That's said
Winning.
like
Such a bad loser. I hate it. I hate losing. I think part of it would be the camaraderie as well, like
yeah.
being part of that. And you don't get it very often, but like when you're playing and you're like fully immersed in the game, like it sounds so cringe to say, like battle lines are drawn, you're really tight game, you're just physically bashing the other team, bashing each other, and you're doing well, and you're with. I was lucky enough to make a few. I've been at one club for so long, made some very close mates. I think that friendship was only made stronger by knowing them on the pitch as well. So I knew them off, but knew them on when shit hit the fan.
Yeah.
Them blokes were stood beside me, and I knew a few of them, not all of them, by the way, not all of them, but the ones they were next to you, and they were going to give what I was going to give, and I was willing to hurt myself to win the game, and I knew they were as well. And that feeling of unity, I think, of togetherness, like even though it wasn't with all of them, because you don't get on with everyone, you know, but that's another thing for another time. But that being able to be there on that front line, to be giving that much, is something that it was quite, like you can't replicate that, but that obviously that is what it is. It's done. My career's done now, but it's an unbelievable feeling. Yeah, just I think as well, it goes into what you say, like with the feeling for rugby, the best bit for me was that physical confrontation. So it did end up in fists thrown, punches, all of that. It's a physical game, and it is what it is, you know. But that physical confrontation, like I think scrums, that's even though there's 8 people going together and scrumming against each other, you have to get the better of your other man to stand the chance of going forward and winning the scrum. And when you physically beat another man and dominate them so much, it's like, I don't know what to say, it's like quite a barbaric thing. I don't know, like it's that physical just domination of really getting over the top and winning, doing your job, succeeding, getting a penalty. Yeah, that was pretty. Yeah, I'd miss that to this day, not being able to do that. Like, and people hate it and think you're mad for wanting to scrum. Like, all the people, like, apart from probably the front row who play it, hate it. It's stupid, blah. But it's like that. You got to be in there to get it and to understand it and be with it to get the enjoyment out of it. It's bloody good.
Yeah, it's mindset too. You're talking, I'm just hearing like a couple of different points that you're talking about, the mindset and dedication that you're putting into it, but it's also like trust, the trust of the guys around you and your team. And that's like the camaraderie, but you have to trust these people, right? That you're going into battle, right? Because it is a very raw on contact sport, but the level of connection that you have with those folks and the level of trust that you have to have is next to none, really.
Yeah, well, you know the guys, if you're in an alley and you know the guys who'd stand beside you and you know the guys who wouldn't, essentially, and that is trust again, isn't it? That
it
I'm
is.
going to do everything, I know the guys going to back me up. So that is the trust, isn't it?
It is. Catty comes to mind. You know, he
Yeah.
just can.
Good time on the pitch and a good time off it, to be fair, which very
Yep.
similar individuals, I think.
I think that you two are cut out of the same cloth, is what I think,
No,
in a good way. In a good
definitely.
way.
But I think that's the people that you align with. So even though like rugby is, you get so many people on one team and so many different personalities, you generally find your way into people that, you find your way to spend more time with people that you get on with naturally, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
yeah, that you that you're drawn towards, right? And that's in life in general. There are people that you're drawn towards and people that you aren't. But then when you think about this was your job for so long. This is what you got paid to do. This was your work, right? You have to try and get on with everybody, but
no one, you don't want to. I've never truly disliked anyone that was on my team. Opposition, different story, but on your team, you want to try and get on. You're not going to ever be best friends with everyone, and that's cool. Yeah. That's right. But I always try to have with different people, even if they haven't got anything in interest, just have one thing, whether somebody like music. I'd always one guy like barbecuing. So we didn't have much in common at all.
Yeah.
Quite honest. But I knew he liked a bit of barbecuing. So I do as well. So that was just, I said, have you tried this? So that was our little conversation. Or I do like music, but I'm not massively into it. I don't live and breathe music, but some people love it. And that's another little connection. And that's what I always tried to do, have at least one thing where, even if it wasn't in common, but you knew they kind of liked it. So you could, essentially it's not being a mate, is it? It's just, being able to have something to chat with, and just have something to get along with.
I get that. What about the difficult side? Like, what was the hardest thing, let's say, or the least favorite? Put it that way.
Well, I think everything's because it's such a performance-based industry, like winning and losing is what it's about. And the losing is a massive low point. You work so hard all week to try and win. You're playing against another good team, they do well, you lose. That is part of it. But it still doesn't take out all of the week, all of the hours, everything that you've put in to try and get it. So that is it's a moralizing part of it. And but it happens every week. So you either win or you lose. That's the facts. But it still doesn't make it any more comfortable to take. I certainly couldn't stand it. I hated it. And that would go into then, obviously you knew, depending on played well or bad, that would lead on to Monday morning, typically play on a Saturday or Sunday. And then Monday morning's review, with the coaches in front of all your peers, your mates, you're in a room. If you'd made decisions that had led to a loss, or you had done something wrong or hadn't done your job, that gets highlighted. And then you feel like you've let your mates down and your team down. And for me, playing bad or playing well, I didn't need anyone to tell me. I knew myself, and that was good enough for me. Yeah, some people need confirmation from social media or whatever. That was never me. I knew, and as long as I knew I hadn't let my mates down, that was enough for me. And the coaches and my peers, that's what matters essentially, isn't it?
Yeah.
But that led on to, I digressed a little bit there, but the dread of Monday morning meeting after you took a hiding at the weekend is not, it's not a great feeling. I think another one, which again happens every week, is selection. So whether you get picked or you don't get picked, and whether you
That's a
feel
biggie, actually.
Yeah, like I really took it personally. So, but I was kind of the mindset that selfish again, even though it's a team sport, it's so selfish as well. Like, even though the lads I played with, who even played in my position, I got along with them.
Yeah.
But when it came to selection and wanting to play, everyone knows where you stand. I've made no bones about it. I'm here to play, not to make friends in that instance, you know, even though off the pitch I'm friendly and see everyone, do you know what I mean? But in that instance, and when it comes to selection and the coaches say you're not playing or you're on the bench or whatever, I took it very personally. And like, first of all, wanted a why. And why is this? And then I would give my opinion as well. Of probably, I like to think that I wasn't like blind to it. I knew if I was good enough to play, and if I didn't, there had to be a reason, unless I felt it was very unjust, and then I'd definitely speak my mind. But again, all that effort, all that time, your preparation, everything, and they don't tell you who's playing at the start of the week, obviously to let everyone train hard for selection before they tell you on like a Thursday. So typically you train Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday off. Thursday, they tell you the team, you train as a team, train in the afternoon as a team, and then Friday team run, Saturday play. That's a normal run of the week. And yeah, that is because it's gutting. Like, you're getting told, one, you're not, I suppose it's like a bit of a abusive relationship, really, isn't it? You get told, you know, you're too fat, you're not quick enough, you're not fit enough, you're not good enough, you haven't done this right, you haven't done that right. It's but it's part of the job. Like, I was kind of for want of a better phrase, a fuck you kind of guy. So like, if I wasn't picked, I'd take it personally. I'd make sure the coach stated why, so that he could never use that again. So I will make sure that does not happen again. So he will never have that reason to give me again, because I make sure it won't happen. That's how I got through it. Do you know what I mean? Just be like, right, cool. Obviously, say your piece. It's done and dusted. A lot of people can't get over that. To then they'll train badly or not give a shit about the team. Whereas I always, again, for my mates, and then probably my mentality of like, fuck you mentality, I would go out and train even harder, because I wanted to make a point. I wanted to prove that I wasn't a wilting flower, if that makes, that was my whole like mindset. Like, nah, I'll show you. Yeah, cool. And I'd make it a pain in the arse for everyone. I'd be like, yeah, quite combative. And that's the way, I suppose, for that mental side of it, to you either take it, go, all right, no worries. But to me, I was like, no, because that thinking on it, like mindset wise, that if it's easy for a coach to drop you and you don't give up any fight, and it's not an awkward, you don't make it into an awkward conversation in the future, like, I'll drop Ross, he's not really going to make a fuss, it doesn't really matter. And I'm like, I'm damned if that's gonna happen to me. So I'm to the point where I've had, and I think rightly so, on the pitch, training was delayed because me and the coach were on the sideline giving
Hashing it out.
Hashing it out, exactly. And in that instant, it only happened a couple of times, but it was very undeserved. And I was a team player, but in that instance, it was BS what I was getting and wasn't justified. So made my feelings known again. But that just goes into it, doesn't it? Of I'm not an easy person to get rid. So don't think of it. It has to be a genuine reason, and I'll take it on the chin and accept it and move on. But it has to be genuine. No BS here, please.
No BS for us, but also wilting flower is not something that I would use as a descriptor for you, Ross Batty. Knowing you since you were 0, I have to tell you that wilting flower does not go into the same sentence as
No, but
you.
it's just, I suppose it's just the way, I think the way, what you hold, the standards you hold yourself to as well, doesn't it? Like,
Yes.
I've got to give back. They are my mates. I've had the bad news, deal with it, get on with it, make team better. And then when I get a chance to come on to play off the bench, then I'll show again how good I am, and more of the fuck you sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Even though I
Yeah.
respect coaches, do you know what I mean? I respected them, and I had some great coaches, and some that really, even professionally, some that really helped me, mindset wise, development wise. But they knew me as a person as well, and knew I wasn't a person that would just sit back and accept.
And feedback is important just as a human being, as you grow and as you develop, especially like as a teenager, getting feedback from important people in your life, you grow that way. If you don't get the feedback, you don't grow, right? You have to be able to grow. So that's one thing that I'm hearing you talk about. But the other piece is the camaraderie, but then also the individual drive. Like you have to be a competitive person to be able to put yourself out there. And in some ways, I'm hearing like survival of the fittest, that kind of strength comes out on the pitch for you individually, but then there's the team aspect too.
Yeah, and I never wanted to be a person that hid away on the pitch. Like I always wanted, like, if we were losing or if whatever circumstance, I wasn't a big talker off the pitch, you know, like, but during game day, I don't think I ever shut up, to be honest. I wanted to make everyone come forward with you, and that's that leadership stuff. Like, just keep going and talk things through, and let people just be that positive push forward rather than, you know, I suppose got wilting flower in my head again now. So like that sort of ilk, you know.
Yeah. And it does teach you about leadership, right? That's another kind of skill that you have developed, right? That you can use now that you're kind of after, like you're in your retirement years now after rugby, after you're not playing the physical game anymore. You are utilizing those skills that you had on the pitch in the work that you do.
Yeah, it's so I've been doing, like, what I've moved into, the construction management and stuff, which I love. It's really good. You know, learning an awful lot as well. But that really, I didn't really get it before, but then seeing people on the building site, the lads that I work with, you really opened your eyes, because I've always been in a super competitive environment. Everybody wants to do it. Everyone wants to get forward going. If you didn't want to do it, you were the outcast. Like teams I played on, a nice person certainly didn't tolerate that. If you don't give it, like, get out, go home, like, not interested. But yeah, different people. So like, I don't get, some people are just happy floating along, come to work, do their job, don't push themselves. And then some people like just don't want to do it, just do it obviously to get paid, which is life. Like that is, yeah, that. And it was a real eye opener to me to see that, because I've never seen it before. I came straight out of college, private school, straight into professional rugby, along with a little bit of university rugby, and then a professional rugby player. And that I found it really hard to, like, I've had to look into it, because obviously being in management as well, I want people to do well. I don't, and finding ways, my way is try and get a common ground, that sort of relationship, to then I can be a bit more demanding. Do you know what I mean? I'm not across as, because if you just go in as demanding, yeah, a bit of a dick, really, aren't you? Do you know what I mean? But
Yes.
if you have some sort of relationship, kind of win people over, then because I want the job to be done yesterday, and I want it to be as quick as possible. And from the rugby, I'm certainly not scared of an honest conversation. I think a lot of people are.
Yeah.
So when it's performance based or whatever, I'm not being personal. I am stating facts. You might not like to hear it, but this is factual. I'm not being personal. And that I found people really don't like it. They really struggle. So as in the management on the sort of sites that I work on, like it is only the best precision. Like these houses we're building are like some tens of millions of pounds. Like it's so top end and everything has to be right. And it just it's not too bad. That's not acceptable, which is why I like it, you know, because you get so when no one likes their work being pulled apart, and I wouldn't do it in a disrespectful manner. But what I will say is that what we've done there, we're going to have to adjust it to, I wouldn't say it as this, but make it better, because where it sits right now isn't good enough.
Yeah.
And to try and push people on a day to day. Everyone has bad days come in. You can tell when lads come in the office to sign in where their head at is for the day, whether they're sulking, they've had an argument with the missus, whatever. So you can, I think, understanding people a little bit there is key to then be able to know, right, might just lay off this lad today. So just understand him a little bit, and then, but I let them know at the start of the day, most days, to try and snap them out of it. Like, right, Joe Blogs, whoever, Freddie, big day for you today, mate. We've got a lot to get through. So it's like, it's taken a little bit jovial, but it's still there. Do you know what I mean? So you know that we're getting into this today. We're working hard. You know?
Yeah. Transferable skills, right? That's what we call it. When you've had these skills that you've practiced and honed, and then you're applying it now out into the job field, and you're still earning a paycheck in a different way. But something that was really interesting that you talked about is it's trust. Like that's the piece that I'm taking from it. It's you are an authentic person. Like you just are. You are yourself. You don't. I love that about you, is that you are real. Like you are you, no matter who's in the room. And I think that that's intimidating for some people. Some people go through life who are so worried about what other people think about them, right? And so you don't have that per se. That
no, you're
good
not.
Thing.
My view on that is like you're not going to get on with everyone. I speak to people as I want to be spoken to myself, and I don't think it's necessarily a level of respect for everyone, because you have to earn it. But I certainly wouldn't want to be rude, like to people. So like meet someone, you initially don't get on. Like I wouldn't like just be rude to them because we didn't get on. Speak like, because I wouldn't want someone to speak to me disrespectfully or something of that ilk. So
sure.
like you're not going to get on with everyone in life, and that's cool. Don't mind. You either get on with me or you don't, but I'm not going to make it more of an issue than it needs to be. We'll just, you sit over there, I'll be over here, and we'll get on.
You've certainly ruffled a few feathers in your time, Ross Batty. I think that's my perspective from the outside looking in.
Maybe a little bit more. Well, I won't say well-rounded, because I'm certainly not very well-rounded, but it's probably did it a bit more in my youth than I do now. Found a bit more of a way to go about things, should we say.
You're definitely more emotionally mature these days. If we put it into therapy language, you're more emotionally mature and more grounded these days.
Temper, my days. Like, God, it's crazy. And but rugby, the rules around it, controlling it, helped me so much. Like
the structure of the rules.
Yeah, like crazy, because I such a bad temper, like angry temper.
Red mist, right? Mum calls it the red mist.
Yeah, but you just can't even function, like can't even think about anything else, because you're so involved in being angry. There's like nothing else in there. It's silly, really, isn't it? But
but it's true.
Try not to get there. Yeah, I think you still get it. Like, don't get me wrong, I still do that every now and again, not very regularly, I hope anyway. But it's not really. You learn to adjust and be with it, understand. So now I would take myself out of a situation if I felt I was getting to that level. And it does take me a few more levels to get there, where it used to be a lot sooner. Like I said, a bit more maturity around it, but just understanding why when you're getting towards that state, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's growth. That's like total, what you're talking about is emotional regulation, which is what I teach teens in therapy session, is how to regulate yourself. Because when you are dysregulated, right, your brain is offline and you are not in control. You're not in control at all. And so
Definitely.
when you're right, we know a few stories of our childhood of people who are around us who have not been in control. And we won't go into details, but it's scary for everybody around them, right? And there's this element of intensity. I think that's the thing, and like danger.
Huge intensity, yeah, because it is overwhelming. And I think the big one for me with that was obviously the rugby is a natural outlet, because I got to be physical, I got to be angry, I got to hit people within the rules of the game, not just going around punching people, obviously. But I got to do that. So that was a good outlet. And it was kids. Kids was huge for me. So being able to, like, I did not want and don't want ever to be like in that situation around my kids where I'm that annoyed or that angry, because it's not a nice situation. So that's why it does not happen around my kids. I do not get like into that, like whatever reason, what that mindset, like you just don't get that. Yeah, I get pissed off like with kids, like does they push your buttons?
Of
God, I've got a
course.
2-year-old, do you know what I mean? But it's and you do get annoyed, but never to, I suppose, that level where you used to get to in youth sort of thing, you know?
Yeah, no, it is a real thing. And it's I mean, you're talking about parenting, right? And parenting, really what I'm hearing you say is it changed you. It changed the way that you manage life and how you deal with interactions. And parenting is the hardest job in the world. I say that like it is the hardest thing to do when you dedicate yourself to being a parent, and nobody gets it right. Nobody's a perfect parent. I don't care what you say. Like, you
No,
just
definitely.
can't. You can only do what you do, and you can only do it as well as you possibly can.
Yeah, and again, like to state the obvious, everyone's human. Everyone has a down day. Everyone has a day where you're not on it, or you may want to parent in this way. But today, because they're kids, I've had 3 hours sleep. I'm a bit pissed off. I'm a bit angry.
It's
My
rough.
tolerance is gone. And yeah, you could probably give them a few chances or whatever, and you don't. And it's
Yeah,
life, like, roll with it, aren't you?
you do. You have to, and that's part of life, and part of growing up and aging is learning how to roll with it. But the other thing I wanted to go back to is work ethic. Like, you have a very, I would say, extremely strong work ethic, right? And I know I do. I know for me, like, it is so, like, I'm very driven when it comes to me being successful or doing something to the best of my ability. So can you talk a little bit about where you think that came from?
You saying I've got a strong work ethic. My other half, Stacey, might say different with
She's going to be like,
with the
Leah.
housework or something else. No, I think the work ethic was just wanting to be good. I had a few, like, I think when I was younger, this is only personally, like, I had a time where I probably thought big fish in a small pond, and probably thought I was a little bit better than I was. Like, it wasn't for very long, because you soon got slapped back into line. But just as you're growing up, you're in school, like you're the best there, all of that. But probably looking back, like, that taught me such a valuable lesson when I got out. Like, I wasn't the best. I had to work hard, and some of these players that I was playing with were amazing. Like, some people I've played with are just, like, one guy, Rocco, like, I love him to death. He's a brilliant guy. Like, but his God-given ability to play rugby, that I've played with World Cup winners, I've played with a lot, who probably technically kicking a ball, running a game, passing might be better. But as a natural God-given ability of talent, he is like standalone in my eyes. Like, I've seen him do some things on a rugby pitch that it begs belief. And do you know what I mean? And that I quite soon got to change I think this is mentally where it changed in my head, where if I work really, really hard every day, like if I just 150%, yeah, I have got a bit of natural ability. Don't get me wrong, you have to play that level, but then I'm going to let him be able to do that because he's miles better at running than I am. So I'm just going to hit everything I can, whack things, scrum, like, because scrum's really technical for the position that I played.
Yeah.
I'm going to be class at that. I threw the ball in a line out, so I'm going to be really good at that. So I can give him the ball and he can be a world beater. And that's like, that was my whole thing. Like some people are quicker, some people are stronger. Like, do you know what I mean? And that work ethic was, I'm just going to do everything I can do to allow that guy to be better. Do you know what I mean? To allow him, because he can do it better than I can. And through growing up, and I had a period as well which instilled it even more, was at one point where I think I don't know, maybe 22-ish, somewhere around there. I left Newcastle. Reasons I won't go into, selection, a young lad, and it bothered me a lot. And I ended up stepping down the league. And I was going to give up then. I don't know if you remember, I was going to retire. I was just sick of rugby, not getting to what I want. It was all to selection and the coach favouring somebody else quite blatantly, which was really hard to take because anything I did was never good enough. And it hampered me. Do you know what I mean? It hampered my progression. So I was obviously very internally beat up at that time. Do you know what I mean? I was like, right, I've had enough. I'll pack in, sort of thing. I'm just done. Spoke to one of the coach, like the people who brought me through, and he was like, literally, give me a slap. And he's like, don't be stupid. You're being an idiot. And
real talk.
Yeah, like realized, like, do not even think of it. You've got far too much to give. And I was like, pff. And he basically sorted out with an agent somewhere for me to go, which is why I went to Rotherham. And he's like, go and enjoy it. Just enjoy it. And then he's like, I know you. If you're not enjoying it by the end of the year, fair play. Then do you. So I went there, playing every week, loved it. Great group of guys, got like in the league. I was like the position of the year. Like, you know what I mean? Like really, really made me step up. And that step down. So when then I signed for Bath, that my work ethic was just even more, because I had in that when I was playing for Rotherham, like it was professional, but it wasn't. So I had to do so much by myself to get better to then go again, which was like the work ethic, and it just installed more to me. And then when I got to Bath, I was like, I am not never going back. The championship was great, like the level below, it was brilliant, learning, playing every week, but I wanted to play at the top level. Like I wanted to be there. And that was the stepping stone. So it was so worthwhile. I should have done it when I was 19 rather than when I was 22. That work ethic, like I am never dropping to get there again. Like, and that's when I turned up at Bath, I was just like hell bent, had my score and had my other, other things which made you stronger, mentally focus more, stay on track, dealing with that, like, well, that hard bit of what's real in the game, and don't do it. But yeah, that to work hard was then like even more just reaffirmed, and that's when it was, well, that's what you do. So then fitness training. I mean, like Catty, obviously, I was with him for the start there because he's from me all the time, and he was 150%, and that I was like, well, this is the norm. So obviously that's why we got on.
That's right.
So hard together, like extras, everything, and it's just that's what you molded into more. Do you know what I mean? Through them experience, it molded me more than whatever, and even back to the early days where that work ethic of getting of actually going to training, and my dad going, like, even when you're younger, I don't feel like tonight, whatever, or something of that ilk. I was never like that, but something like that. Do you know what I mean? Or there's something on TV, or somebody, or even with girls. Oh, want to go and see this girl this weekend? Then my dad's like, don't think so, mate. You're going. You've committed. You're going. You go every week.
That's the piece.
Every time there's training, you go and you turn up. Like, weekends you don't go off to see a girl, or you don't go off to go out on a drink. Even when I was younger, and I had been out, because a lot of my mates who we grew up with, they were all football and they were not like rugby. So yeah, God, how I made it, I don't know.
Right.
I'd go out on Friday with them sometimes, and then just being a young lad and turn up on a Saturday. I think it's just just proved that I had something, because I was still playing well in that league. Even though it was men's rugby, I was still playing well and I still could. And yeah, fuck, it's stupid when you look back at it, but you're a young lad, aren't you? You do what you think's right at the time, and that was very feral.
Feral, actually, I use that term sometimes for Mackenzie Hibbs, who is your goddaughter, and she reminds me of you sometimes, Ross, because there's this level of feralness that just takes over, you know.
I did a podcast with one of the coaches who brought me through the academy system, and then when I was on with the books for like the England Sevens, which is another form of rugby, and the coach from there, who I got on really well with, was there, and he said, I'll never forget, he was like, growing up, you all the way through, because he knew me from when I was 14 to when I left. So he knew me inside out, and he said that you were just a feral child, like you just pushed the boundaries, even not off the pitch. You always walked the line, like always on the pitch, even rules during like in training sessions, not in like rugby games, like in just skill games, like you pushed the boundaries. You always walked that line of being right, and like you were always just there. And I was like, nah, feral, I was a feral child, to be fair.
I remember it well. I do, but also, you know, think about like now you're raising your kids, right? You're raising your girls, and you've got so much to kind of go from, because you know, like for me, I was, in comparison to her, like she's such a good kid.
Angels, yeah, and that's the way we want it, isn't it?
Such a good child.
Yeah,
and I'm like, oh,
yeah,
God.
to be fair, I think that a difference, isn't it? Maybe times have changed a little bit. I don't know, but yeah, probably got away with far too much, to be honest.
Correct.
Experienced an awful lot of stuff that a young lad probably shouldn't experience. But
yes,
makes
and
you more
after that,
well-rounded. But it's all experiences, isn't it? And learning.
It is, and we'll move on at that point, so we don't get into trouble with the parents. So you never know. Merle B might be on the phone in just a second, telling us off. So, but so working class too, right? We were raised. There's no, you know, I'm very proud of my roots. I know you are too. Like not working class northeastern grit. Like there's something like it. We're both coal miners' children, right? Like dad was a coal miner. You can't get much tougher than that. But how, you've talked a little bit about like the stress of competition as well. So how did you keep strong, like mentally? How did you handle those tough things? I know a lot of people use like mindfulness, a sports psychologist, a coach, whatever it might be, but really you're battling against your mind. So how did you stay focused, and how did you kind of handle that?
I think it was a bit to do with my mentality. Again, for want of a better phrase, a kind of fuck you mentality, where I was, it was me and I'll prove you wrong. So you didn't get selected, like, I'll show you. Didn't do something right, I'll show you. Like that was massively my mindset. And then other things you have to learn along the way. Like, so the only way, it's so rugby specific. So people who don't know rugby might not get this, but it's the only way I can kind of explain it, is to just massively built my resilience. So I was quite a fiery character anyway, but when you're throwing a ball in a line out, there is obviously two lifters and a jumper. They do their job, they jump up in the air, they get supported, you throw the ball, they catch it, you win the ball back, you play. But in rugby, so all the spotlight is on that hooker throwing that ball. So if it's wrong, the hooker gets pulled apart, whether it's on TV, like in the stands, it's always the hooker's fault. And that's just it is. That's the way it is. Like, people don't know enough about the lifts, the calls, everything like that. So that's just perception. That's the way it is. I could throw the most perfect ball for that jump, for that move, which we've rehearsed 1,000 times in training, mind. So you know exactly where it needs to go, and you could put it exactly there. One of the lifters might miss a lift, so then the jumper doesn't go to that exact spot. The defense of the team might actually just read it and do really well, get up and steal it. So you've done everything you can do, but it's still not had the desired outcome. Do you know what I mean? So you're playing in the TV in front of millions, thousands in the stadium. You're doing everything you can, but yet it's still not the desired outcome. That training, it's still you're getting pulled apart, or the line-out caller who calls where the ball's going to go, and I just throw it where is having a bad day. I'm throwing it. We've had 6 throw-ins and we've only won 1 because the line-out thrower is having a bad day. But everyone thinks it's the line-out thrower, not the line-out caller. But so you have to be resilient, so resilient in that. Like, it's like NFL kicker or a quarterback, or so, you know, a football player taking a penalty. Like, it's probably there's not as many moving parts in that, like essentially many things going on, because you're just throwing a ball and the rest will be what it will be, because you can't affect that. You know, like, that's the best way to do it. I could get everything my end perfect and it still won't be good enough, because, like I said, they could just be done well. Like, they're good players. They could have just done really well, or like the line-up ballers having a bad day, and to be able to then lose the ball. Imagine we had a scoring opportunity to win the game in the final. Something of real pressurized situation. It doesn't come off, but then I have to still carry on with my game and play, and not let that dawn on you, not let that hamper you. Or it comes to another opportunity, I have to throw the ball again. After that, it's not just one throw a game. You have to stay in and stay going, and that resilience to be able to just, in that sense, I just solely, the people I work with, was solely on my process. So I knew if I got my process right from some process, walking up to the line, right foot, left foot, hips, because if I put my hips up, I'd throw the ball well, hips, and then when I finished, it was my hands. It was obviously, there was loads to it when I was younger.
Technical, yeah.
Yes, but then as I got older, I was comfortable in my process and just believed undoubtedly in my process, and that it blocked out all the noise, because I was so focused on what right foot, left foot, hips, chest, hands. That was every time. That was my routine. Because you're so focused on that, you block out the chatter, you block out the noise. Like, it doesn't matter. But that resilience is what you use and you have to experience it to get better at it. That's what it was for me anyway.
Yeah, wow, gosh, that's so technical and so detailed, but you practice that so many times, like over and over again. And then I really, what jumped out to me is the focus and the determination, but also the noise, right? You have to kind of block out the noise that's happening around the pitch, but then also off the pitch too, because I mean, I know you say, oh, I wasn't famous, but in Bath, the town of Bath, you were pretty famous, Ross. Like, I remember going into a grocery store, as we say in the States, like a supermarket with you, and people stopping you, talking to you, being gregarious and asking for your autographs. So you were pretty well known in the world of rugby. But how did you to like switch off the noise? You've talked about how you did it on the pitch, but what about like the newspapers? What about social media? What about all of that stuff that's so intense?
And again, like, I never needed praise from anyone other than, well, not even needed praise. I knew myself. Sorry, that's my alarm going off. I never needed from anyone else. Like, I knew myself, and that was enough for me. So I never read social media. I didn't care. Like, it wasn't for me. I didn't need pulling up. And I was always of the opinion, like, even with the media, you get in the, you have a good game, you do something, you get in the paper, but it goes on, and it doesn't matter. Like, essentially, it does not matter. And I want to do well for myself. Like, well, I suppose you look a bit deeper, your reputation, your family. I want to do well for myself, my peers, and my coaches, because that's who I'm playing for. Do you know what I mean? And that's like, honestly, like, some people, I've seen some people with that professionally who are that bothered about, Alexa, stop. Sorry. 21st century problems, eh?
Yeah, that's right.
No, like, some people really fed off it to make them better. And then when it's bad, people are ruthless, man. Like, and they don't care. Like, do you know what I mean? And they pull people down. Everyone loves to pull somebody down. Didn't give people the opportunity to do that. Like literally, the reason why I had started having social media was for sponsorship stuff.
Yeah,
Because
no, I remember that.
I just put a tweet out there. Thank you for the boots. Thank you for the clothes. Thank you for the trainers, and to whoever provided them, or thank you for the thank you for, and that's what I really used it for. I certainly wasn't trawling through what blooming Joe Blogs down the street reckons about it, you know, and
reckons about your line out when he doesn't even play on the pitch.
Everyone's better from the armchair, aren't they? God, I sit and watch the football now. I love watching Newcastle and the football, and it's, I've still got that burns. Like, even when I'm a fan, I'm so conscious that I'm not doing that, because they are so much better than what I could do. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, they're amazing. Even if they miss kick it, they're still better than me. So it's like, just very aware. You hear people, oh, that rubbish it is. I'm just like, give over, man.
That's exactly how I feel about it, because it's like, if you're not in the arena itself doing the hard work, shut up.
No, exactly.
Everybody's got an opinion.
No, exactly. And everyone can say it. It's just when it's bollocks, leave it alone. Do you know what I mean? Like, even in the stadium at Bath, like, you had a coach come in and he wanted us to sit in the stadium, like, to be with the fans and behind the bench.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, you're playing, and I've always been a believer. Like, I will speak to anyone, whether you're famous, whether you're a millionaire, whether you're, I don't know what, somewhat, like, whoever you are, I don't care. Like, you're a person, I'll speak to you. Like, I'm no better. We're all the same, and that's honestly the way I view it. Like, no social standing. Everyone is everyone, and it's good to be nice. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
And no, and that was a difficult bit, where people from the crowd, or people from, like, after the games. So in the match, you don't hear any. I didn't hear anything. Some people may. I never did. But, like, you're having a few beers with whoever after, or whatever you're doing out socially, not in a game. Some people, old Jim or whoever it is, has had a skinful and thinks it's the appropriate time to tell you what you've done wrong. And when people started getting on like that, I shut it off really quickly. And first time it happened, I didn't. And I learned a lesson from that in the first, that, right, okay, before you carry on here, you want to give me your opinion, I am going to give you my opinion. So if you're going to be controversial or anything like that, I will stand here and talk to you, because I'm not going to, like, go away or anything, because I think it's terrible, it's rude. But you've had a few, and you might not like what I have to say about you. So just be aware. And that kind of, after that, you be that direct, it kind of stops people in their tracks a little bit. But loads of people think they can then give you an opinion, and it's like, with the greatest respect, you haven't got a clue. You know, that it's like, so
exactly.
That was tough, though, because that kind of hampers. I know some people get in social media
it's brutal out there.
Yeah, it's just,
it's rough. It's rough. It's not human sometimes. Like, it's so rough out there.
It's faceless. And that's the thing about it. That's why people get away with it, because it's, if they were stood in front of you, they wouldn't say it. No, there's very few people who would.
Yeah. And agreed. Yeah. What about, exactly. No, exactly. And so that's the toughness. That's the resilience. You've got to build yourself, right? And, me, I call myself a recovering people pleaser, but, at one point I would have cared what other people thought. These days in my 40s, I've definitely grown like a certain resilience with that. But you've had it from a young age. You had to have it being a professional sportsman from a pretty young age. And well, I'm aware of time, and I've had such a great time talking to you. I could talk to you all day, Ross. But last question is, now you're in retirement, right? You've progressed from a really solid career that spanned like definitely, nearly 2 decades, right? Really, if you think
16
about it.
years, I think. Yeah, 16.
Yeah, 16. Was it 16 years?
And then retiring at 37.
Right. And retiring, but then there's life after, there's life in retirement. So what was that psychological transition like for you, going from being a sportsman and not having weekends? Like, that's what I think, like Christmases. I just think about like the dedication, the sacrifice that you made with, choice. It was a choice, but now the psychological transition, like you have a somewhat normal life now. What was that like?
Definitely. No, it's amazing. Yeah, I love it. It's I think a lot of people do struggle, but personally, it's like, for me, like, I love my kids. Like, I absolutely adore them. And to be here on a weekend and just do weekend stuff with a kid, even if we're in the house,
yeah,
like that, it's amazing. Like being with my three girls, with Lila, Stace, and Thea, like that, I'm happy. And I think it's, some people do really struggle though, but I think for me, it was, I obviously, well, like I had 3 neck ops, and the last one was the one that retired, and the other 2, I wasn't ready. And I just wasn't ready. I still wanted to carry on going. And some people say it was stupid, but you do what you think's right, don't you? And I just wanted to keep going. But now, like, it's the thing, the weekends, and just having the girls, like, even going through retirement before we had Thea, like, I don't think Lila, our eldest little one, she'd never know like how much she helped me, because kids, I found, like, because I mess around, I'm daft, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have to be so in the moment.
You do. Present.
Yeah, because they are, and that's the way they do, and that helped me so much. Like, but because I'm not saying other people don't love their kids, that sounds bloody terrible, but like, that is my focus, and I've got a career which a lot of people don't know what they're going to go into. Like 16 years of rugby, and then bloody hell, what do I go into then? Not doing anything else, haven't been able to do anything else because rugby's so selfish, professional sport so selfish, to be like, yeah, I've got a career where I always was of the thought that rugby wouldn't define me. Like, I played rugby, yes, but when I left rugby after training, I didn't watch it at home. I had a cut off, and I think that's really helped me. So like, like that cut off, brilliant. I did get injured. I was lucky. I was 33. I'd had my time. I probably would have retired that year, if not the year after. And yeah, I've got no regrets about that. But then being able to have that focus take off my new career, learning so much, throwing myself into that, and being able to be literally a full-time parent with the kids is brilliant. Like, I love it.
That's profound.
I love being with the kids, and that, being able to just be here on a weekend, not have to know, at 3 o'clock, 2 o'clock Friday, I have to go because I've got to go away to Leicester, or I've got to go away to Newcastle for the weekend because we're playing, be away the majority of the weekend, and miss not being with them. Like, genuine, like that's real. Like, it's, I think that takes up now my focus. Like, it really does. It's we've got a few of the things on our plate in life. Like, do you know what I mean? Myself and Stace always take a lot on to keep us busy. So maybe that's it as well, with studies, with learning the new industry, with all of that. Maybe that's a part of it as well. But
well, you're both so
just
driven
done. Just
that way.
done. And now next, right, that's gone. Next, what am I doing next? That's it. I've got my kids to look after. I've got my kids to provide for. I've got the renovation, which renovated our house. I've got my rental. I've got studies which I'm doing to get a degree. Like, it's just, maybe that's why I don't have time to think about anything else. Don't get me wrong, I'd love to have known the last time I was going to run out of the rec. Like that's obviously the Bath Stadium. To know that was the last time I was ever going to do that, because that's a big thing. Running out on match day is huge, like the atmosphere, everything. But it's not meant to be, is it? That's the way it is. So now I'm more than fulfilled. And do I miss it? Quite honestly, no. I don't. It is a very tough life and hard, even though you watch something you love. It is tough. And I feel much more at rest now than I did all there, because it's always on you. It's always there. Whereas now it's like the stress is every week, all week in that industry. Whereas now, when we get to building to completion, you have stress at the end of the job, which is intense, but it's never to get the building built and complete. But it's never like what it was. Do you know what I mean? Just happy.
Well, wow, it's amazing for me to hear that and just sit on this side and kind of listen, because you have come kind of full circle. And yes, I'm biased, but you're an amazing dad. You really are. And I noticed that, like, I think about the presence that you have, and then the partner that you have, and how supportive she is as well, and just wonderful. But you've got this team, right? You've got your family is your team now. Like, this is it, and that's everything to you. Like, that is the focus. So
and to be fair, like that, and I think you hit the nail on the head. That is us, and that's where I want to be, and that's what I want to be involved in. It's my team, my family, and I'm very lucky to have 3 beautiful girls. You know what I mean? Like, so lucky. And Stacey's smashing it in her industry, and the kids are growing.
Really is.
And you see, it's just them bits of magic that they're everyone thinks the kids are amazing, don't they? They're all biased, but like, do you know what I mean? Mine are better. It's
the better.
hey,
Always the better. Yours and mine together.
God, I've got all my godchildren as well. Geez, got to get them in.
Please don't say on live that they're not, because they'll have something to say to Uncle Rothy.
No, and they're amazing. They're all good. Do you know what I mean? And it's just, I think your focus switches, and
it does.
I think genuinely I would have had a hard time, because I had kids later on in my life, obviously towards the back end of my career. And I don't think I would have been the same with them there. And that's probably the lads who did it. I'm amazed they played and had kids. Like, I was a bit later, but I just want to be with them. Do you know what I mean? Like, don't like
it's a hard sacrifice. It's obviously a hard sacrifice. And think about any working parent, right? I think about any working parent, and doesn't matter what their career is, when you're away from home, there's a certain element. I think about military folks as well. Like, it's a choice, but it is a sacrifice that they're making as well. And then, it's hard. They make a sacrifice themselves. So
100%.
All right. Well, I want to thank you, Ross, for being here today and letting me interview you regarding being a pro athlete. I really have watched your career on the outside, but also I've kind of seen the inside as well, just a little bit. And I just really, really am so proud of you. And I get to say that because I am. I'm really proud of the person you are and the human you are, because you're an amazing human being. So thank you.
Very kind. Very kind. I don't know about it, but hey, thank you very much.
All right. Well, thank you so much. We'll push pause for now. Say hi to Stace and the girls for me. I know you've got to go pick up Leah.
All right. Much love. See you later.
Bye, darling. Love you.